Okay, my name's Chris Edwards. I'm with the Kentucky Department for Public Health. I deal primarily in on-site septic issues in western Kentucky primarily, but for right now, I stretch all the way from the Mississippi River east of Lexington. Okay, the health department and the watershed. I wanted to briefly explain to you what our health departments, what programs they do, how we train them at the state level, how they're organized, different professional organizations we participate in, our specific roles in water, which is mainly wastewater, and just some of the latest in industry practices. So health departments have all kinds of duties. Basically, when I say health department, I'm talking about your local health environmentalist. And they are responsible for an incredible amount of programs they have to regulate. I listed just some of them up here. And that really is just some of them. Now, in specific to our on-site sewage program, this is how they're trained. Each local health environmentalist has 4 stages of training just to work in on-site wastewater. They go to the basic soils morphology class. They have 2 phases of training in the on-site sewage, and then a full certification in the on-site sewage. Our basic soils morphology is held at University of Kentucky. It's a very high-paced, week-long course, and they have to make a 70 or above on their final test in order to pass the class. And it's an extremely hard class. Phase 1 and Phase 2. Our Phase 1 programs are done out of Frankfurt in a classroom, and it's a full week of just classroom instruction on regulations and laws and the on-site sewage program, the math involved in basic size systems, different types of soil that they learned in the soils class, what we do with that information. And then in between Phase 1 and Phase 2, they'll have 5 one-on-one visits from state staff, such as myself, and we'll be in the field evaluating soil and running them through many different scenarios of wastewater and how to dispose of it. And then after 5 visits, then we all get together somewhere in the state and we do a week-long field training where we're one-on-one with state staff from all over the state. There's 3 of us, and just a fine-tuning. There's a written test and field test, they have to make 80 or above to pass that. That's just an example of down here. If you look at the bottom on the paper, we're checking the clay content, and we evaluate the soil and based on structure and texture and size the wastewater systems. And then after a year, we go back and we visit them throughout the year, check their files, make sure they're doing their paperwork correctly, make sure they're doing their math correctly. And then if they've done everything fine over the year, we give them another field test. And once they pass that, they're fully certified in our program. So start to finish, it takes over a year to be certified to work in the on-site sewage. All of our environmentalists in the state are registered sanitarians. We're one of the very few, probably 3 states in the country that I'm aware of that require their environmentalists to hold that professional license. And they have to get 10 hours of continuing education approved by our RS committee in order to keep their license. We also offer a Soils 2 class where it's in the field, and we use PhDs from WKU and the University of Kentucky to evaluate soil in the field. That's more as a recalibration tool for the folks that have been around a while. How are they organized? Health departments across the state are either independents or they're in a district. For instance, where I live in Bowling Green, I'm in the Barren River District Health Department. It encompasses, I believe, 7 counties. They're all band together under one district. Or you could also have, like Lexington, Fayette County, Louisville Metro, or even your smaller counties like Christian County, are independent, standalone health departments. So they're now we work with all of them at the state level, but they're organized differently. When at the Department of Public Health level, I don't know what our primary goal is. We do quite a bit, but training the new people is the most important part of our job. And that takes an incredible amount of time. We also serve as conference and hearing officers for issues that are not easily solvable. And we're available for expertise in the field. For instance, if someone has a very difficult piece of property and they want a second opinion, then we go out and do that. And a homeowner or any private citizen is allowed to call us, and we are free of charge. Okay, this is just basically, of course, the yellow, he's retired, so now I'm the red and the yellow. But that is how we break up. We have home offices at the state level and their field offices, and then Like in my area, there's the red. Any county in that red, citizen or health department that needs anything, they would call me, and we would get them taken care of. We have some professional organizations. There are quite a few, actually, but just limiting it to the water part of our job. We have Kentucky On-Site Wastewater Association, and it's a mix of inspectors, installers, private industry professionals, and concrete manufacturers. And advanced treatment companies are really involved in that. We primarily now just put out installer training. We require all of our certified installers in the state to maintain 6 hours of CEUs a year. And the Department of Public Health puts out that training, and CAWA also puts out some of that training. It used to be a huge organization, 300 or 400 members, but there's a show that bounces around between Indianapolis and Nashville called the Pumper Show, and they took all of our installers. So now we're pretty much relegated to just doing some classes here and there. Now, specific programs we have that affect the watershed. We have septic systems, septic disposal sites, septic pumpers. Of course, we certify all of our septic installers. We approve every new component in the state, from a new concrete tank all the way up to the high-speed advanced treatment systems. We do technical consulting, and we do training for everybody in the industry upon request. And then I thought I'd just go over some things that were particularly interesting that we do that this crowd might find interesting. We do quite a bit, and it's starting to really catch on in Kentucky, of advanced wastewater treatment. And this is going to take your residential wastewater, and you can all use your imagination on that, and it turns it into a very clear water. So why would you want to do that? Because we're going to give you a big reduction in the size of your lateral field to begin with. And in addition to that, it's much better for the environment. When you're around the lakes in Kentucky and around areas such as that, these have become increasingly popular. They're very expensive, by the way. So if you look on the left, that's basically your BOD5, your total suspended solids. Those measurements are the range that bottle to your left, the dark one, is. That's residential sewage. That's effluent. And that's what it looks like. Then there's a middle bottle, is how it's changing it, and then the bottle all the way to your right, the clear liquid, that's what's called secondary quality effluent. And that's less than 30 milligrams per liter BOD5 and less than 30 milligrams per liter total suspended solids. So if you just to back up, these treatment units, the one on the left there is an illustration, the one on the right is real. That's what goes in the ground. It collects your residential septic and converts it into what's on the right. And I know that's real because I was there when that picture was taken. We also do, the cluster systems are beginning to catch on. An entire neighborhood or community combined on one giant septic system. Usually the advanced treatment is involved in that, and they use what's called a drip irrigation, which are a half-inch tube that drip the wastewater into the earth itself. And they do it in different zones, so it spreads the wastewater out over a huge area, and it allows the other zones to recover while one is being saturated. And there's many different, it all comes down to economics with this. If you're in an area where it's a 1 acre minimum lot size, then a developer is eventually going to figure out that he can do a cluster system with advanced treatment. And so acre lots for the same or more and adequately for their flow and dispose of it in a safe manner. That's what drives the cluster system or from a decentralized system. And that's just a basic drawing of what I'm talking about. You can homes, each one will have a septic tank and maybe an advanced treatment unit, or they'll have a bank of advanced treatment units downstream, and they're all collected to one general area, and there's a lateral field large enough to accommodate the entire community. We also do constructed wetland cells, particularly around our lakes in Kentucky. Have a 50% reduction in the size of the lateral field. They're wonderful on lake lots or any small lot where space is a concern. A lot of people get them because they're very green friendly, and they can make a landscaping very beautiful. They're very interesting if you've never seen one. And the disadvantages are they do cost more than a typical septic system, but not a whole lot more. And it has a maintenance component, but it's got a bit of a bad rap over the years. The maintenance on it is basically they're filled with water absorbing plants, and you got to make sure that the plants don't take over the entire surface area. And there's a filter involved. You have to rinse off a couple of times a year, and that is all the maintenance. This is what a typical wetland cell looks like. If you look where it says the inlet pipe to the left, or my left anyway, that's where the water's coming, the effluent's coming from the septic tank, and it's going to fill up and it's going to travel. That's rock, where these little drawings are. It's going to travel through rock beds, and in between the spaces in between the rocks, that's where kind of the magic happens. That's where the bacteria does its work. You're going to get an incredible amount of evaporation from this. The cattails or any water-absorbing plant are going to dispose of much of the water. And then what comes out the bottom and goes to the water level control box is typically what we call a polished effluent. And it's much easier for the soil to absorb it and dispose of it in a safe manner. And just a few pictures. This is one wetland cell that actually went in Allen County on the lake. You can't see behind the house, but the soil in front of the house was terrible. So there's no way we could put lateral lines in it, but the wetland cell is lined with plastic. It doesn't absorb anything. So we put the wetland cell in the front and then a very small lateral field in the back because they used the wetland cell. So that's where they dug out the place for the wetland cell. And they lined it with plastic, and you can see the 4-inch PVC coming in from the tank. And then that's your inlet pipe where the water's going to travel along the width of the wetland cell. And then that's when once it's filled up with rock with that pipe sticking up in the middle, that's just a check box to check and make sure the water's traveling through it. And I know what the first question is going to be. No, they do not smell. You can put your nose right on top of that rock and you will not get a whiff of anything foul. So that's all I got for today. If anybody's got any questions, of course, you can let me know. If anybody needs to contact me for any reason, there's my email address and my phone number, and I look forward to hearing from you.